The silver screen stole my war, polished it until it gleamed, and sold you a beautiful, dangerous lie. They took the mud, the blood, and the endless, grinding fear, and they replaced it with righteous fury, clean uniforms, and heroes who never, ever missed. I sit here now, in the quiet comfort of a world that my generation bled for, and I watch the flickering images of what people think our sacrifice looked like. And I have to tell you, the greatest battle I fight these days is against the ghost of that celluloid fantasy. It's a fantasy that cheapens the truth, and the truth, while brutal, holds a far deeper, more powerful lesson about what it truly means to be strong. My name is Arthur, and the stories I carry are not the ones you've paid to see. They are etched in the silence between heartbeats and the phantom weight of a rifle on my shoulder, and in the faces of the boys I can never forget. The films show you men charging across open ground, a symphony of courage against a backdrop of dramatic explosions. Let me start you where so many of our stories began, on a beach. The movies show us sprinting through the sand, a heroic dash into the pages of history. The reality? For 3, maybe 4, agonizing hours we crawled. We moved slower than a baby, our faces pressed into the wet, blood-soaked sand. The only thing that propelled us forward was the terror of staying still. We didn't run from machine gun fire. We hid behind the bodies of our friends, our brothers, waiting for the deafening chatter to pause for a fraction of a second. That fraction was our window. We didn't sprint. We slithered, inch by painful inch, from one dead man's fragile sanctuary to the next. That wasn't cowardice. It was survival, the first and most brutal lesson of war. You've seen the image 100 times, a single machine gun nest mowing down entire platoons. It's a terrifying, cinematic image, but it's not the whole truth. The sound that truly haunted our dreams wasn't the asterisk rat-a-tat-terrorisk of a machine gun. It was the soft, almost gentle asterisk, thump asterisk of a mortar tube miles away, followed by an unbearable silence as you counted the seconds, and then the world-shattering asterisk, crump asterisk of the explosion. Mortar, the unseen enemy, the death that fell from a clear blue sky, accounted for nearly 60% of all infantry casualties. Machine guns? Less than 10. Real combat wasn't a face-to-face duel. It was a terrifying impersonal mathematics of indirect fire, a lottery where your life was decided by an enemy you would never see. And what of our steel behemoths, the tanks? The movies show them as mechanical knights, jousting at high speeds across rolling hills. I knew a tanker, a young man named Charlie who chewed on unlit cigars to calm his nerves. He told me that 90% of his time in a battle was spent sitting perfectly still, engine off, sweating in the suffocating steel box, peering through a tiny periscope. It wasn't a duel. It was a deadly game of hide-and-seek. He was the hunter and the hunted, scanning the horizon for the slightest glint of an enemy barrel, knowing that the first one to see, the first one to fire, was the only one who would drive away. The battle was won not with speed, but with excruciating, heart-pounding stillness. The myth of the perfect shot extends to our marksmen. You see the sniper, a lone wolf with an eagle's eye, taking out his target from a mile away with a single, dramatic bullet. I served with a man we called Elias. He was a sniper, and he was the most patient man I ever knew. He once told me that for every confirmed kill in his logbook, he had fired, on average, 20 rounds. 20. His victories weren't born from superhuman aim. They were born from discipline. From lying motionless in a freezing ditch for 2 days, from studying the wind, from mastering the art of camouflage until he was just another shadow on the landscape. His greatest weapon wasn't his rifle. It was his unwavering patience. The glamour of the skies is just as distorted. We imagine dogfights as these prolonged swirling ballets of aerial combat. My cousin David was a pilot. He flew over 30 missions. Do you know how many times he actually saw an enemy aircraft? Twice. In less than 5% of his missions did he even detect another plane. And when the engagement finally happened, it wasn't a 10-minute cinematic spectacle. He said it was a 90-second blur of terror and instinct, a chaotic scramble where you fired at a fleeting shadow and prayed. The vast majority of his war was spent in the cold, lonely, and achingly empty sky. Even the simplest tools of war are given a Hollywood makeover, the grenade. In films, it's a pocket-sized bomb, erupting in a magnificent fireball that sends stuntmen flying. The truth is far more sinister. A real fragmentation grenade doesn't create a fireball. It barely makes a flash. It just pops. A vicious metallic cough. And in that instant, It unleashes a storm of red-hot shrapnel, tiny razor blades of steel that shred everything within a 15-foot radius. It doesn't kill with fire. It kills with fragments, silently and brutally. The myths extend beneath the waves, too. We see submarines surfacing dramatically, their deck guns blazing in a naval showdown that was suicide. A submarine's strength was its invisibility. 95% of their attacks were conducted from the crushing, silent darkness of the deep. To surface in a combat zone was to invite every enemy ship and plane to turn you into a steel coffin. The real battle was one of nerve, sound, and sonar pings in the suffocating blackness. Then there are the fundamental lies about the soldier himself. The hero who sprints through a hail of bullets, firing his rifle from the hip. Let me be clear, if you are sprinting, you cannot aim. The chance of hitting a human-sized target while running is less than 1%. The real tactic, the one that kept us alive, was a rhythm. Stop, plant your feet, breathe, aim, shoot, an asterisk, then asterisk move. It was a dance of survival, not a mad dash, and at night? The movies illuminate the battlefield with flares and spotlights. Our nights were almost completely blind. It was a world of sound and shadow, where most shots were aimed at a noise, a snapped twig, a cough in the darkness. In that confusion, that pitch-black terror, friendly fire casualties skyrocketed by 400%. We were often more afraid of our own unseen comrades than we were of the enemy. But the most dangerous myth, the one that I feel compelled to tear down, is the very first one. The myth of the individual hero. The idea that the war was won by a few brave men, a few Rambo-like figures who changed the course of history with their grit and a gun. That is the greatest fiction of all. World War II was not decided by singular acts of bravery. It was decided by logistics, by industry. It was won by the women back home, Rosie the Riveter and her millions of sisters, who built the planes, tanks, and ships faster than the enemy could destroy them. It was won by the quartermasters who counted every bullet and every can of beans, ensuring the supply lines never broke. It was won by the engineers who built bridges overnight and the mechanics who kept the engines running on fumes and a prayer. It was won by the collective, unglamorous, relentless effort of millions of ordinary people doing their part. The soldier crawling on the beach was a hero, yes. But his heroism was not in sprinting, it was in the courage to crawl. The tanker waiting in his steel box was a hero, but his heroism was in his patience. The sniper, the pilot, the submariner, their strength was in discipline, not in impossible feats. So why do I tell you this? Not to diminish their sacrifice, but to redefine it. True heroism, the kind that changes the world, is rarely found in the single, brilliant, cinematic moment. It's found in the quiet, agonizing crawl when you want to give up. It's found in the discipline to keep going when you are exhausted and afraid. It's found in the teamwork that turns a million small, unseen efforts into an unstoppable force. The lie of the movies is that you must be superhuman to be a hero. The truth of our war is that heroism is profoundly human. It's the choice to endure. It's the commitment to show up day after day and do the hard, unglamorous work that needs to be done. That is the strength that won the war, and it is the same strength that will help you win the battles in your own life. Don't look for a fireball. Look for the quiet resolve to take one more inch of ground. That's where real courage lives.